This is the Unscripted Climb, the podcast where business owners talk about stuff that doesn't make it to motivational speeches. I'm Chris Beecham, founder of Perch Merch, where we put your logo on things people might actually keep. I co-host this with Natalie Micale, founder of Oh Hello Agency. She makes brands look like they have their act together. If you want a free merch or brand audit, we do that too. No pressure. Just don't blame us if we're honest. Go to theunscriptedclimb.com. Let's get going.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Unscripted Climb. It's Natalie Micale here with Chris Beecham, my co-host. We are really excited to have Susan Pilato here, the founder and CEO of Mantra, a sustainable furniture brand that I've had the pleasure of working with at Oh Hello. I've also gotten to know Susan personally through some of our visibility work for her and working to amplify her brand. And she's got such a unique, interesting story about how she started her business. She's a former interior designer turned entrepreneur. So today's conversation, let's welcome Susan. Susan, thank you so much for being here, especially on the backs of Neocon, which is one of your industry's biggest events. How did you feel that went for you?
Yeah, Natalie, thank you for having me. This is so exciting. So we call it like the Super Bowl of our industry. And yeah, by the end of it, you are worn out like you had played the Super Bowl.
That's
But it was
exactly
great.
right.
Yeah, it was great. It was great. I mean, such great people, such great energy. It's, the one time you get to be with all these amazing creative people. And I wanted to say, you said former interior designer. Girlfriend, once you're an interior designer, you are always interior. Once it's in your blood, it doesn't go anywhere.
So true. That is incredibly true. How did you even get into the interior design world? Let's start at the beginning.
Yeah. So, you mentioned entrepreneur and I think that's been in my blood since I came out of the womb. There were stories about when I was 5-year-old doing little things and pretending like I was in business. And so it was something in my crawl right away. But when I applied for college, my dad had a friend that said, "Hey, let's get Susan to take this test and just see where she should go." Because I knew I wanted business, and they're like, "Oh, let's see what it is that she's most talented." And it came up interior design and teacher, and I'm like, "What? I want to go into business." But the interior design part, I was like, "Well, I really love building with my hands. I love to create stuff." And so that's the direction I went. I went to Virginia Tech. And I'll never forget going to my first art class, and I went up to the art teacher and I'm like, "I don't know how to draw. I can't do this. I'm in the wrong major." She said, "That's what we're here to teach you. You're good. Don't worry about it." And I'm so glad I stuck with it because I do believe it's where I was meant to be. And I love it. It's like being in a sandbox playing when you get to be where I am right now with being in manufacturing, but also having the experience of the corporate branding, which is much like what you do, but we do it on the interior side. So I love marketing. And so I get to do a lot of fun, creative things just by having an interior design degree.
What was your first job as an interior designer? You go from, hey, I don't even know if I can actually pass this art class to graduating college and getting into the industry. How did you do that?
Yeah, so the first job I had was with an architecture firm, and I was their one and only interior designer. And, it was small, but this was great because they had me up on roofs looking at how to do roofing details, stuff that didn't have anything to do with interior design. But it was great because I understood how a building was built. And that was so valuable of an experience to start off with that once I left there, I really had a visual of how buildings were put together. And so going forward after that, I worked for this amazing interior designer. He taught me so much about color theory, and he really, really had an eye to do things on the edge a bit and gave me that confidence to really push the envelope and make a space just something special. And I'll never forget what he did for me. He's passed now, but his spirit stays with me. I mean, I can feel him pushing like, go for it, go for it. And I just really was blessed to have such really great mentors, architecture and then design, just fabulous mentors. And then I decided it's like, I know I want to have my own business one day. I need to understand about sales and marketing. So I went to work for a furniture dealership. And when I did that, I was still, I marketed myself as an interior designer, but I wanted to go into the account executive side because I knew I needed to do tough things being an entrepreneur. And that's part of like learning how to sell yourself, sell your design. And I realized as an interior designer, you do that already. You're selling, you're presenting your ideas. So in a way, you're already sh- showing people what you have to offer. So that's where I met my business partner, Donna. We went to lunch with her one day, and I said, Donna, what do you think about going into business? And she's like, I never thought about it. It's like, are you kidding? And so one thing led to another, and we made the jump
How
at
many years ago was that?
30, 30.
And
Oh,
where were you at to take her to lunch for that conversation? I want to know.
That is so funny that you asked. So it was this, it's gone now. It was a chain. It's now Buffalo Wings, but I'm trying to think what it was at the time. It started with a T. I can't think of it right now, but she she just kind of looked at me across the table like, "Are you kidding me?" And I'm sure, she still thought over the years, "What in the world did I do? Are you kidding me?" But because I'm more the let's push and go do this, and she's like, got the reins kind of pulled back a little bit, which is good. It was good.
You need both. And it reminds me of a quote. If first they say you're crazy, then they ask you how you did it. And the only reason I say that is because somebody has to say you're crazy at first, and somebody else has to believe that they can do it, right?
Yeah.
You have to kind of have both
Yeah,
as an entrepreneur.
it's so true. It's so true.
So that was 30 years ago. And tell us a little bit about what the last 3 decades have been like. You probably can't give a short synopsis of 3 decades, but paint a picture for us.
It's been a wild ride of constant drinking from the fire hose. It's in a good way. There's been times that you think, how in the world are we going to make it the next day? And that's really on the early side of things when we first started. Just as women, we were really struggling to get any kind of line of credits or anything like that from banks. So we had to do a lot of shuffling with credit cards just to figure it out, make it work, and we did. And then we got some ground under our feet and were able to have a bank actually consider banking with us or us banking with them. And it just steps, right? And yeah, I mean, it's there were days that I thought, how are we going to make it to the next week? But something always happened that gave us the encouragement to keep walking forward. And that could have been a friend, a mentor. It could have been just an email that shot through or an opportunity. And I really feel that at the end of the day, you can make it if you just don't give up. You just don't give up because it's hard to not give up. I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. It's just there are days
Mhm.
you think, wow, I've got all this responsibility and it feels really heavy. And then there are days that are like, man, this is the best thing ever. But there is no such thing as perfection in the journey of entrepreneurship. There are so many books written on it, right? I mean, everybody's got their story. But you're going to have an individual story. Everybody's going to have that story that is going to be unique from another. And that's a good thing. The consistency that I have found is you got to have a good support group. You got to have scout people that really do know you and believe in you because you're going to have to lean on them. And when the times are tough, to remind you that you've got the stuff, you got it, you can do this. And then you've got to have enough confidence to let go of the things that just don't work. It's okay. We're not just because it was an idea of yours and it failed. It tend to not use the word fail because it's really that's a heavy word, but it may not work or it may need to be shifted. And golly, I've been dizzy at times with how many times we've spun in different directions because something's not quite working. And it's like, okay, let's go in this direction. And that's where I find the most successful entrepreneurs that I've been blessed to be in company with. They are the ones that were able to let go of the ego and shift gears. And also when to be willing to generous with credit to your coworkers and your team because you may have started the business, but you wouldn't be where you are if it weren't for your talented team. I know that for myself.
And you have a great team.
We
You
do.
really do. You have a wonderful team of people.
We really do. They are just I'm just sitting in my chair, just like, wow. I mean, I'm just blown away at some of the ideas that they come up with. And I get so excited. It's like, wow, we're going to go there now because they came up with this idea. It's just so cool. And it's being an entrepreneur. It's important for you to start things, but it's also important for you just to sit back and let people just come up with their own ideas and creations. Just they may not work, but that's okay. Let's get, it's exciting just to throw some ideas out there and
Hmm.
see where it goes. You just never know.
Well, it sounds like you're a good boss. You want that. You encourage that. You want ideas from your employees.
Oh yeah.
Plus, they gives them a passion for the business. Back to that word, passion.
Yeah.
You want your employees obviously to have as much passion as you, but that's just not how
Right.
the world works. We
Right.
understand that. But what is your passion for the business? Like, what's your why?
Well, I do love coming to work every day. I really do. And my why is really the people. I really enjoy being with them. It hasn't always been that way. There have been times and we had a mix that was just a little bit off, but for the most part, throughout my career, we've had really great people. In fact, we've had a lot of longevity with our employees, which has been awesome. But this group, I mean, we've got a lot of young people here. I love to see the thoughts. They're not, it's interesting. I feel like Gen Z has more confidence in expressing their ideas. I'm a Gen X than my generation. It's like we kind of held back and
Mm.
Yeah.
weren't quite sure, being in the room. It's like, but I love how the Gen Z is like, what if we do blah, blah, blah? And we may say, well, maybe not that, but let's shift it over this way. And they're like, okay. They're not holding on to it, but that was my idea and we're going to do it just like I said. I don't I don't feel that. So it's
More malleability,
yeah,
flexibility.
yeah. So that my why is really the excitement of working with people that are creative. I have a great passion for the hardwood industry now. You couldn't have told me 10 years ago that I would be sitting talking to you all about this and for me to have believed it 10 years ago. But the more I learn about forest management and the sustainability of hardwood,
And by the way, for our viewers, define what mantra is because I don't think we have yet.
Yeah.
we have
And then we'll
I
double
have no
back
idea.
to the hardwood piece because I think it's important to know.
oh, sorry, yeah, because it is such a passion of mine that I just skipped right over the meat of the story. Um, So mantra-inspired furniture was actually born from a client of ours. So we've had this client, Town Bank. They're a financial institution, big on branding. They're very particular about their facilities, and we've been fortunate to work with them for the last 20 years. And they standardized on solid wood furniture for all their offices. And the company's name was Hardin at the time. Beautiful, absolutely stunning. And I have been witness to how this furniture has lasted for 25 years. And we send a refinisher in to their offices periodically and shuts it up. He does his thing and it looks like brand new. Well, about 2016, I get a phone call from Greg Harden and he says, Susan, it's breaking my heart to tell you all this, but we're not going to make it. 2008 and to 2012 recession just took them under and they got involved with a couple of private investors that really were the ones that took them completely down, unfortunately.
Mm.
So it broke our hearts and we were panicked, like, oh my gosh, what are we going to do? Come to find out, our industry doesn't do solid wood furniture. And we had no idea. We just assumed that we could find someone else. Well, we couldn't. There wasn't anybody. Everybody was making veneer plastic laminate, and they were using substrates, and still are, with MDF, multi-density fiber, that's wood chips, or particle board, which is even um, um, less quality.
Hmm.
So we were like, oh gosh, we got a problem here. And the companies would say, oh, we can give you a solid edge, and it's like solid wood edge. I'm like, no, that's not that's not good enough. We need everything. Well, thankfully, we had a connection to the Amish culture in Ohio through two Mennonite fellows, and problem solved. We were able to recreate the exact design that we had before, and we've made thousands of pieces at this point because we've built several buildings since that time. And they're continuing to right now. I mean, we're delivering furniture left and right, and it is stunning. It is absolutely gorgeous. But once we found out about that, it's like, why is it being done? Why aren't people building solid wood? And that's when we found out a lot of it's been sent over to China, to Indonesia, to Vietnam, and the materials that are, if it is built here, the materials that they're bringing in are much less quality and cheaper. And so our industry got used to just that being the standard. And we're like, no, not good enough. And the greenwashing that was happening. And what I mean by greenwashing is our industry has become more aware of how important it is to use sustainable material and not have the fast furniture, kind of like fast fashion. And so there's a lot of, oh, ours is sustainable because it has wood chips in it, or it's sustainable because of this or that. And they are convincing people with certifications and so forth that plastic laminate over particle board is sustainable. And we're like,
No.
no. And, people forget about longevity when they're talking about sustainability. Yeah, you could say or come up with like, oh, we use biomaterials or we did this, that, and other. Is it going to last? Or is it going to end up in the trash in 5 years, 8
Or in
years,
the ocean.
or in the ocean? Right. Great point.
So what happened to that financial firm, Susan? What happened to them? I mean, did they went under and, you're
The solid wood furniture
yes,
company,
yes.
yeah, they went completely under. Now, Town Bank did not. Town Bank's doing
The
phenomenal.
solid wood furniture
But the
company was
solid
the
wood
one.
furniture company did go away. Unfortunately, they did. And, if I had had the money or the resources, I would have bought them in a red hot minute because they had such a great factory. They had such great craftsmen. They had such a great story.
Mm.
And they had mostly been in residential for most of their history. They were around for 125 years. So it was really hard to see. And there was some family infighting over ownership. There was a lot of stuff that was happening that I think contributed to the demise. And I don't think that there was a lot of passion left to keep it really going. But wow, I mean, it hurt us because we saw them as an opportunity to show how environmentally sound they are, and then they went away. So it's like, okay, well, we're going to do it. So Mantra was born, and then we were like, well, we can do our own designs. That we got the more traditional and then transitional case goods worked out for our client, and we build beautiful boardroom tables. I mean, it's just gorgeous, just absolutely gorgeous work. But then we're like, hey, well, what if we start playing around and we start learning how to work with solid wood, because you have to understand how to work with it because it does move. It's a product that is a living product. But what I love about it is every single piece is unique, just like we are. Every tree is its own person. And they don't have a central nervous system. So when you cut them down, they're not feeling all this and all that. Some people get a little carried away, but the wood is just, it's amazing what we have in this United States. I mean, people just don't understand. We have species that Europe just dreams of having. They have beautiful wood, but we have such a variety because we have the colder temperament or temperate temperatures up north, and then we have the more tropical south. So you get a variety of different walnuts. Like, for instance, walnut in Indiana tends to have more of a blonde streak in the walnut if you allow it. If you don't cut out all the sapwood, it's gorgeous. But down south, as you go further south, the color is more even across the wood. So it's really cool to work with and learn about all these different woods.
Yeah, you're very knowledgeable about wood. But you had to be. You became an expert in it. So what does your team consist of? Like, tell me how, I assume after 30 years, you have a lot of repeat customers, which is probably the best part of it. But how do you go about acquiring new customers? And what does your team look like?
So we have the Mantra team, and then we still do own PCNA business environments. So that's more of like a what we would call a furniture dealership, design focused dealership. So we're in Norfolk and Richmond. So we have healthcare clients that keep coming back to us. But on the mantra side, of course, we have the financial one that we spoke about, but now we're really going across the country, and we have some of our work is in DC. Okay, I always get this wrong. It's either Supernal or I know how it's spelled. I always say it wrong. But they replaced, I think it was like 300 tops. They were redoing offices, and instead of taking away like the guts of their cubicles, they replaced the tops and it looked brand new. So that was a great project. We're working with right now AstraZeneca. We've got some tables and some furniture going into, I think it's actually getting installed this month.
Wow.
And we're talking about some other things. So Port of Seattle is another one that has reached out to us. So it's really cool to talk to all these different companies and see what they think is fitting for their space.
How do you think they're finding you and getting a hold of you?
Well, they're finding us through our reps. So we have manufacturer representatives, and we really working on connecting with people that understand sustainability and understand how to call on the commercial interior designers. And we've been very successful. We've got a really good group. So what they're doing is they're calling on the A&D for like a lunch and learn and explaining to them what Mantra is. They're bringing in some of our product. They're showing them the website, how to work our website. Certainly, the work that Natalie's group is doing for us is really helping. I mean, what I love about what her team has done for us, they also taught us more about how to do social content appropriately and how to kind of broaden our mindset on that. So I think Matt's done a great job. He's learned a lot and
Mm.
has expanded his thinking on how to post whatever we're posting and change it up a bit, but also just the different avenues of press that we're seeking out is giving us a broader audience of understanding who Mantra is. So it's not just interior designers. So the hope is that as interior designers are presenting it to people, that the people they're presenting to might say, "Oh yeah, I've heard of them," or "Yeah,
Reputation precedes revenue.
there you go." Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Can you just go back a little bit and share some of the earlier struggles in the business and capital? Sounds like that was one. And how did you overcome those?
Yeah. So capital, especially at the time, with being a woman in business, it's and we still have that struggle today with women getting business loans as opposed to our male counterparts. It it was it was probably about 10 years before we could get enough ground underneath us um, to get the bank to see us as a serious business. And I think it is different today. So I want to be careful on on what I say was a challenge because it was then. I'm seeing things different now with some people, some young people that are looking to get, whether it's grants or the grants weren't even a thing when we were doing our business. It was just so different. The different ways that you can raise money weren't available to me at the time. And so, I mentioned the credit card shuffle, and we had to deal with that for a bit. And for a while, I had to have my husband sign on all our loans. They wouldn't do any. Now, he had a business too, by the way, well, I take that back. At the time, it wasn't his. When he bought the business, he had a pretty substantial line of credit that he had to take on with his business partner. And I never once, not one time, have I ever been asked to sign on anything for him. However, until 2008, he had to sign on everything for me. And he questioned it every time, not because he didn't believe in me and wasn't willing to do whatever. But his question was, why for her and not for me? And
What would they say to you back then?
Yeah, I'm really curious.
yeah, well, they said, well, it's just, she's a startup. And it's like, well, she's not a brand new startup. Well, and it was always, it's just what is required. It's you. And now my husband did buy a business and it was established, but, at the same time, I've talked to several of my women friends and they had similar experiences. It finally is now, I'm trying to think when this became against the law, but it's recent. Now in 1988, they finally came out with a law then that said that a woman can have um, signed for herself without her husband. But that didn't mean he couldn't sign or they couldn't ask for his signature. But it wasn't until 1988.
But I mean, obviously, we know laws take so much time to even implement in a financial institution situation. So, law
Right.
comes in 1988. You're talking about 15 years to even implement that.
Yeah.
And I think that would honestly, that would probably hurt my confidence a little bit initially to think that even the banks don't believe in you,
Oh, yeah.
you
Yeah.
know? I
Well,
mean,
yeah, absolutely. And it was something that was pretty consistent in the first 15 years of our business. Well, I said, yeah, it wasn't until Town Bank, really, they were the first ones that said, in fact, it was funny. It was actually, now that I think about it, it was 20 years ago because my son was in the little car seat. And I told my husband, I said, can you wait in the car? I'm going to go sign there was a loan that we had for something or what, I can't remember now, but I told the banker, I said, "Vince is in the car with Sam. I'll go down and then he can come up and sign." And they're like going through these papers and it said, "Is Vince an owner?" And I said, "No." And they're like, "Why would he sign?" I said, "Because he's always had to." And they're like, "Yeah, no, he doesn't have to sign. Your signature is good enough." And I'll never forget walking out of that building going, I feel like I just became a big girl. Like I'm a grown up now.
Yeah.
your signature's good enough.
Yeah.
That probably gave you a little sigh of relief to just, all right, we're done with that phase for now.
Yeah, it did. I mean, we ran into it, not with Town Bank, with some other things here and there, but, I pushed back at that point, said, no, no, he won't be signing anything. It's me. So I don't deal with that anymore, but I remember it very clearly and feeling like, I mean, he's my husband, but it's like I have to get my dad to approve
Mm.
that I'm doing this kind of thing. Most of my career, believe it or not, even as an interior designer, most of my career, I've been in rooms with men, mostly men. So I've had to learn to find my voice. Even though I own my own business, I had to navigate very carefully and and to be heard in an appropriate way. So but I don't regret anything. It's made me smarter. It's made me stronger. Excuse me.
We had that happen at the same time. I transferred it to you via the screen.
There you go. She was
Yeah.
talking, though. You're not supposed to do it when she's talking.
I know, and I was dying. Can you share a little bit more about how you find your voice?
It's always a learning process, and I think you find it by learning how to read people in the room. And this is true whether it's a group of men. When you are the only or one of the few, you do tend to seek the ones that either look like you or are out to just kind of ground yourself a bit. But as far as really truly finding your voice, I think over time you learn how to say things or bring up points in a way that doesn't come across as if you're telling someone this is how it's supposed to be done. There's a sensitivity and you have to understand in certain rooms that with a woman's opinion, it may be oh, she's trying to tell me how I'm supposed to do my job. On my end, when I'm not doing that at all. It's just it's especially being a job, having the job as an interior designer, you're trying to guide a certain brand aesthetic for the client. And if the CEO has said, this is what I want done, you, as the representative of his vision, it's your job to make sure it's done. Well, if you're dealing with contractors and you're dealing with some of the facilities guys, they may get a little twisted a little bit that you're insisting that we do it XYZ when they want to do it ABC, that's faster, cheaper, and maybe not quite to the detail. But our client wants it to that particular detail. So I've had to learn over the years just to really find that person in the room that will hear me. And there always is one, and to see if I can maybe help work with him to have my voice heard. I know that's not ideal. It's not what we women want to hear. But over time, as you gain credibility, they do start hearing you, and you don't need to navigate and strategize so hard. But the reality of it is, there is some strategy that you have to learn. And I think it's an individual process. We all have different personalities. So I've had to learn how I'm viewed so that I can adjust accordingly so that I'm heard. Does that make sense?
It does.
So what's the plan now? You're working with Natalie.
Mhm.
So that's correct?
Working with Oh Hello, not just Natalie. And I have to say,
Okay.
David Clark is really pushing our initiative
Oh,
forward. Shout out to David Clark.
So, okay, so you're going into the social media stuff
And PR.
and PR. So then I guess, what is your vision? Obviously, you have a bigger vision now.
Mhm.
So what is the vision for the next 5 to 10 years?
Yeah. So really, my vision is to take mantra to a place where people go to us and say, you really are sustainable. Talk to me about this. Help me understand why I would. And I hope that other manufacturers also consider using more of solid wood. And I know that may sound crazy, but while they do that, I also am hoping that mantra comes first to everybody's mind because we're the first to really push it in our industry.
Be a leader. You want to be a leader.
We want to be a leader. We want to be an authentic, sustainable leader. We want to be that authentic voice. So my wish is really to leave a legacy with mantra. I don't want it to just end with me. I hope that it goes beyond me and with our team. And I'm really more excited about what they're going to create out of it than what I'm going to create out of it. But I really want to see how far we can go with this intention of education when it comes to authentic sustainability and really work on getting things less confusing by showing that here's good product through mantra and here's how it can be done and prove those that keep saying it can't be done.
Which is exactly what you did when you were able to say, yeah, I am going to shuffle these credit cards around. I'm going to make it work financially. And I'm going to come back in here 15 years later after that and sign the check myself. So if people want to get to know you personally, if they want to connect with you, reach out to you, what's the best way to do that?
Susan@mantraif.com. That's my email.
Love it. And she'll answer the DMs and the Instagram for Mantra Furniture.
I will.
We'll help her nudge her creative director, Matt. Thank you so much for coming on, Susan. We appreciate you.
It is my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Yep. Thank you. All right. Thanks, everybody.